Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is Talking Heads. Talking Heads is a platform where experts come from around the world to share their experience, their knowledge, and their expertise to help us be better personally or professionally. Our expert presenter today is Mariska du Preez. Let's welcome her. Hello.
Hello.
Nice
How
to
are
see
you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am really great. It is chilling around these parts, so we're going into winter with full force now. And I have some news to also share with you and our audience.
Let's hear it.
So I'll be taking a little bit of a break from, well, basically the end of this week. So this will be my last show for a while until the week of the 22nd of June. So I'm going to dearly miss all of you. Yes, very sad. But I will be back. So and of course, revived and full of energy. And I'm really excited to then continue sharing. And as you know, today is lesson number 5 in our effective communication series. So of course, we still have lesson number 6 to do.
Well, I know you have some very exciting things that you'll be doing in these upcoming weeks. So I'm especially excited for you, and even more excited that you're going to be coming back and sharing your experiences. So you are a big part of this platform. You're a big part of my life. We're writing a book together, and I'm really happy for you. So safe travels, everything that you're doing, the best of luck, and I'll let you get to your lesson.
Okay, let's jump into it. Okay, so for today, as I mentioned, we are continuing on our effective communication journey, and we at lesson number 5, and we're looking at listening and how to do it well. Now, as we know, when we're communicating, it is not all about us talking. Communication is a two-way street. So there's some talking from our side, and then, of course, hopefully, there will be some listening as well. So let's look at what we have covered thus far. We looked at the heart of communication, purpose, value, as well as the meaning that we have. Then we looked at the emotional connectedness within our communication. We looked at the clarity and the succinctness of our communication. We looked at the intention of what we are communicating, and today we are looking at listening, or we are listening to listening. So, who in your life is the greatest listener? And this might be somebody from your past, might be a school teacher, it might be a parent, it might be a really good friend, or somebody that you have met along the way. So thinking of that person, what quality will you use to describe them? And I can almost guarantee the quality that you used is something positive, something uplifting. Now, for us within our work environment, isn't that something that we could actually help our colleagues with and be that ear that listens to help them to also be feeling uplifted? So taking that into consideration, we had a bit of a look at all the different elements of effective communication and in our previous lessons where we were looking at awareness, we looked at feedback. Now, communication and feedback is one of those things that has a tendency to be very, very closely intertwined. And there's some research that was done that showed that when we give feedback without this element of listening in there, there is a 36% drop in engagement. And now, this is going to surprise you guys. It is regardless whether the feedback was negative or positive. So even when we give positive feedback, we still see a drop. And what is all of this about? Why don't we listen more in the workplace and to each other? So a few things that is incorporated in this is, one of them is the loss of power. We feel that when we listen, we're not in control, right? We're not in control of the conversation because we're not saying anything. We're not doing anything. But that's actually not true. When we listen actively and really listen to understand, it becomes an activity. We're doing listening. And we actually helping empower both ourselves and the person that we're listening to. So that loss of power perception is just that. It is a perception. Then the next thing is, listening consumes time and effort. Now, as I've mentioned before, we do this actively, so there is a certain amount of effort involved when we listen. And of course, for us to be able to listen, we need to sit still, be still for long enough for us to be open to get to listen. So we think it takes time and effort. The thing is, when we listen, we only need to do it once. If we properly listening to the other person, we do it once, it's done. We understand where they're coming from. We clarify the things that we are uncertain of. And we don't need to go through miscommunication iterations so many times before we get to the thing that we actually could have gotten to the first time round. So listening, truly listening, actually saves us time. And it's a lot less effort than when you think about miscommunication that might lead to all sorts of other behaviors that need sorting out afterwards. So that's another one. And then the last one is the fear of change. Now, for most of us, we are not fans of change. It's not something that we necessarily always throw ourselves into because it is uncomfortable. And of course, this is not a skill that most of us learn from a very young age. So it is something that we need to change for ourselves and that we need to change for our teams, which makes it one of those things that can be uncomfortable. And for most people, listening is a skill that we can learn. So we are not born good listeners or bad listeners. It's a skill that we learn over time. And it takes a bit of effort to do that. But when you put that effort in, you will see that it actually has a lot more benefits than you might think. So let's dive into how to do this thing called listening. So the 6 main elements that we're going to touch on today is the all or nothing approach, the no interruptions, being curious, no solutions, good questions, and reflect so that we know what we can do better next time round. So all or nothing, what is that about? So what I want you to think about with the all or nothing is setting the stage. First off, check in with yourself. Are you in a space where you can listen? So sometimes we're in a space where we can't listen. We have a lot of stuff going on in our heads. We might have a lot of stuff going on in our environment, and we are emotionally or physically not in a place where we can actually make space to listen. So first off, check in with yourself. Where are you? Are you able to give the appropriate amount of time and attention to this person that you are going to listen to? Secondly, setting the stage, remove all distractions. So I know most of us have our phones somewhere in the vicinity. It's normally arm's length away. Or we might have an electronic device of some other sort in our vicinity. So take all of that distractions and put them away. So your phone, don't just put it face down on the table between or in front of you. Actually remove it. It can still be at arm's length, but put it in your pocket or take it somewhere where it's out of sight and you can actually have a good conversation with the person in front of you. This also goes for if we're in a boardroom and we have our laptops or other devices with us. Physically move the device out of the way so that your body is open to the other person's body when you are listening to them. This is really important that we front with the other person because it helps them to recognize that we are actively listening to them. Then create space. So part of that is the taking the devices out of the way, and creating the space is also emotional space. So that is why it is so important to check in with ourselves initially, making sure that we can create the space that's required for the conversation that's going to take place. And being in the right frame of mind, the right emotional space, in order for us to feel comfortable and at ease to do this. And it's a lot easier to feel comfortable and at ease to listen when we don't have things in our environment, externally or internally, that is distracting us. Then, of course, putting our body into a listening mode. So when I'm saying listening mode, one of the things that our non-verbals communicate when we are listening, when you think about listening, you really, really get into the story and you want to hear more. What do we normally do? We have a tendency to tilt our head because we want to open our ear in order for us to hear better. So that might be one of the things that you can do before even starting to listen, is tilt your head ever so slightly and have your palms and your arms and your chest open. So in this gesture, we are open to receiving whatever it is that the other person will be saying. And that body posture also makes it easier for people to approach and talk to us. Of course, you don't need to tilt your head all the time. You can put your head upright. When it feels appropriate, you can tilt your head. And of course, also, while the other person is speaking, you can occasionally nod. But this first one is only setting the stage. So those things we can do before the conversation. And then also another thing that is, I think, especially when we're starting off with listening skills, something that's really important is agreeing on time. So for a lot of us, we have a tendency to want to jump into conversations because we feel that we might not be heard. And remember what we said about those fears initially? So this is part of it. So agreeing on the conversation, not only the time for the conversation, but also for the next 5 minutes, I will actively listen to whatever it is that you want to share with me, right? I know it's 5 minutes. It's not 3 minutes. It's not 10 minutes. It's 5 minutes. The speaker knows that it's 5 minutes. So it makes it nice and easy for both of us to agree to, okay, I'm going to have 5 minutes. I'm going to be quiet and you will be speaking. And during that time, I don't have to worry. My turn will come after the person is finished. So that already helps our internal dialogue to ease, because we feel that we will be heard after the 5 minutes that the other person spoke. So agreeing on that time, especially initially when we are practicing these skills, are a great way of doing it. And it doesn't need to be 5 minutes, it can be 1 minute or 2 minutes. It's really up to how you want the conversation to flow and what you feel comfortable with. So don't jump into the deep end, make it an hour, start small. Then the next one is, of course, the no interruptions. Now, no interruptions here, I want us to focus on attention. And the reason why I say attention is normally when we want to interrupt, we stopped paying attention to what the other person is saying. And we start listening to what's going on inside our own dialogue. So paying attention, we will notice that there is some dialogue going on, and that is normal, that's fine. Let it go. If it's something that's very specific, you will see that we have on our slide here, note any points you want to share. So if you're afraid that you're going to forget it, it is a 5-minute agreement and you might not remember it, or you're afraid that it's going to mill in your head all the time and it's going to distract you, write it down. If you've written it down, it's there, you won't forget it, and you can pay attention to the person speaking again. Looking into the speaker's eyes. Now, the thing when we speak, the person speaking might look all over the place and they're thinking about things and they're looking everywhere while they're speaking. Us as listeners don't know when they will look back at us to confirm that we are still listening. So we don't want them to look back at us and see that we're on a phone or we're distracted, because then we are not listening. We want to be looking at their eyes. Wherever their eyes are going, that's fine. Look at their eyes or their face. If you feel uncomfortable with the eyes, you can look at their face, so that you notice when it is that they look at you and you can acknowledge that you are still listening. And then, of course, that brings us to the next point, which is encouraging them via verbal and non-verbal language. Now, how do we do this? So we already discussed the one, which is we can tilt our head. Another one is nodding. So when you are nodding, don't nod like this. Don't nod 3 times really fast. Nod slowly, because it's like, yes, tell me more. Yes, tell me more. Yes, tell me more. Instead of doing it very fast, which is, yeah, please get over with, I want to move on. So a very slow nod helps us to show that we are listening. And then, of course, in our verbals, it might be mms, it might be ahas, it might be that you laugh at things that they tell you that you might find amusing or funny or can relate to. So all of those acknowledging sounds that, in general, females make apparently more than males during conversation, is things that help to encourage us to show that we are listening to the other person. And then a key tip, I think, especially when we are still learning how to listen, is when the person stopped speaking, count slowly to 5. When you do that, and it's really about getting comfortable with that silence, when you do that, you will find most people will continue talking. So if they're in their 5 minutes and maybe they 2 minutes through their discussion and they stopped, count to 5 before saying anything, and they might continue with their conversation. So That is a very good way of helping people, giving them space in order for them to feel listened to and to continue with their conversation. The next one is curious. Now, with curious, I want you to distinct between what I am curious about and being curious about what the person is sharing. So when I am curious about things, I might ask questions that's just going to give me information. Whereas when I'm curious about what the person is saying, or interested is actually the more appropriate word for it. If I'm interested in what the person is saying, I don't need to agree or disagree with what they're saying, but I'm interested to see where they are going with this conversation, or what it is that they're trying to share with me. So one of the things to think about in this part is listening like you listened to a story, a news story, right, that was told to you by your teacher, or maybe your mom read it before bedtime. Listening to that story, you were interested to find out what was happening. What happened next? What would they do? So listen like that. If you do have an opinion about something and it's a burning desire that you want to share it for whatever reason, it might be that you don't agree with what they're saying, or you find something different, put it to the side for now. Take a note of it so you can share it later on, right? It might be that they, throughout the dialogue that they have, that they do come to a conclusion and actually nullifies whatever opinion it is that you had. So think about that opinion-wise, put it aside, or write it down if it is something that you really feel that you want to share. And when you experience this wandering of your mind, because it does happen, our minds do have a tendency to wander, and you notice, hey, I haven't actually listened to this person for a little bit, say, sorry, my mind wandered and I missed a couple of things there. Do you mind repeating it, please? And then we are all human, right? The person that is speaking will notice that you do want to truly listen to them. So making sure that we keep ourselves active in the process of listening. Then avoiding that favorite solution trap. And I know, especially in the workplace, this is something that can be very problematic, because we get to our colleague and we want to tell them something, or they want to tell us something, and we think the only thing that they need is to find a solution to it. So it might not be. They might want to share something about it or share some information with us. There might be a different reason for sharing what they are sharing. So it's not necessary that it is a solution that they need. So first off, to help us is, what are their solution to this thing that they're discussing? Have we uncovered that yet? Is this the thing that we're discussing? Is it a puzzle or is it a mystery? Now, when I say puzzle or mystery, say for instance, somebody asks you, where's the lavatories in this building? Now, to ask them questions such as, where do you think the lavatories might be in this building, is not going to be productive. Just directing them to the lavatory is going to be a lot easier, or reception, or whatever the case might be. So that would be a puzzle. Whereas a mystery is something that has different layers and a lot more complexity to it. And there is a variety of outcomes that might be involved in it. So there's not one straightforward answer to it that the person can or cannot know. Most conversations is in the mystery department, not the puzzle department. So there's no need for an exact solution exactly at this very point in time when we're having our discussion. Then, next thing that we need to think about is, did they ask for a solution? Did they actually request, hey, How can I do this? Please help me with, right? Did they ask that? If they did not, solution is most probably not the thing that they're looking for within this conversation. And then, if we do have something that we feel we really want to share because it's going to benefit them, not us, it's going to benefit them, ask permission first. Always remember, especially leaders, please, please, please remember this. Whenever we give our opinion of something, especially when we're a leader, the people in our team might experience that expression of opinion as an instruction. You didn't give them the instruction, but they might experience it that way because there's a power difference. So always take that into consideration. It is so important. And numerous times we forget that. So absolutely make sure that you ask permission before sharing any of your own opinions, advice, solutions that you might have come across, to ensure that that is actually something that the person might find useful. Then, good questions. So what we want to do is try to ask open-ended questions. So open-ended questions is questions with what, where, how. We can ask why. The thing with why is normally if we ask why, it gives us a reason. Now, nothing wrong with a reason, and it depends on how your why question is structured. What, where, and how questions in general is questions that we as human beings feel more comfortable with. As soon as we have a why question where we have a reason that we need to explain, we have a tendency to wall up and put a barrier up. We don't want that when we're the listener. We want the person to have an open space to discuss. So hence why the why question, it's not a no-no. It is one of those questions to think about really well before you ask it. And then also think about, what will this question provide in this conversation? Will it provide me with some information, or will it provide the other person with more insight into what they're trying to resolve or think about? And then also another thing that might help us within this thinking is, where can I help them in their thinking to help them process it better? And then, of course, the very last thing to consider is reflection. Now, reflection is about the conversation itself that we had, the listening skill that I'm trying to practice. So what went well? What did I miss? Or where could I have done things a little bit better? And what do I want to try next time? So remember the intention and attention that we have looked at early in the series. This is making sure that we are very intentional with how we learn and paying attention at the right places to be able for us to grow this skill. And that, for today, is what we have regarding effective listening within our effective communication series. So if there's anything more that you guys would like to know about effective communication, and maybe there's a few deeper tips and tricks that you would like to talk about or discover, please do let me know. You can get hold of me on mariska@journey2discover.com, or alternatively, you can visit my website, which is journey2, also the number, discover.com. And please connect via LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. You can write a small little introduction just to say where you saw me and what the main reason is for you to love to connect with me, and we can open a dialogue. And I can assure you, being an elevated listener, I do have some of these tricks sorted out, so you will be listened to very well.
Yes, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. And you certainly are an elevated listener. You are certified. And you know what I have to say about your elevated listening skills, that you still have them. Because sometimes when we don't practice things, they start to disappear. But you have
Yes.
yours, they're intact. So it's fantastic. And I'm excited for you for your new journey, and looking
Thank you.
forward to when you come back.
Yes, me too. I hope to share everything that I have experienced in the time that I wasn't able to be with you guys.
And for those of you who don't know, Mariska is my personal and business coach, and she has helped me immensely over the years. So please do reach out to her. She can help you transform your life. She can help you walk into your greatness. And as she shared, you can reach her on LinkedIn. You can see her name there, or she actually shared the website information as well. And then finally, as I mentioned, we are working on writing a new book together, and that will be out by November in time for the holiday season. And the book is one of 7, and the purpose of the book is to teach children and adults listening skills, how to listen at an elevated level. And when you're listening at an elevated level, you are giving a safe space to the other person for them to share, and you have set up boundaries in terms of what that actual time frame looks like, and you will not be using any device. You will not be thinking anything. You will just be fully present. So if you'd like to learn how to listen at an elevated level, you can actually, I was going to say our next course, but no, now it's going to be available as a webinar that people can take anytime they want. So I will be setting that up on my website, drjacqueline.com, this evening. So anyone from around the world can take a listening course. And I think I have a banner. Somewhere I have a banner. Where is it? Here it is. You can actually contact me there on my website for USA Global TV, or you can go over to drjacqueline.com. All right.
Yay!
Yay! They're all the messages I have for today. So Mariska and I will say goodbye for now. It's until next time. In the meantime, you can go over to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV, and you can click subscribe, and then you can watch all of Mariska's episodes under the Talking Heads 2022 playlist.
Yes,
All right.
you can get all caught up. So by June, you can start off with all the new ones.
Can't wait for that. All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye for now. See you later. Adios. Au revoir. Wiedersehen. Good night.